Welcome to Engage MH, the Power of Mixing podcast, Moet Hennessy's first portfolio show. I'm Angela Sauvé, Director of Trade Engagement, and today's episode is all about the world's #1 selling cognac house, Hennessy. I'm thrilled to welcome back my esteemed co-host today, Laura Catlaw, Senior Manager of Trade Engagement. Welcome back, Laura.
Hey.
And very excited to welcome for the first time on the show, Agleen Regent, Vice President of Trade Engagement and Advocacy at Moet Hennessy. Welcome to the show, Agleen.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor.
I thought to myself, Rich looked different today. No, I'm kidding. We're thrilled that you're here and on such a prestigious episode because today's episode is all about Hennessy, which I'm looking forward to as one of the lighthouse brands for LVMH. So today's going to be a good one.
It is going to be a good one. And Laura, you're going to be excited for our esteemed, amazing, incredible guests that we have joining us from the Hennessy brand. We have the Senior Vice President of Hennessy in the U.S., the iconic Jasmin Allen. And we also have our award-winning mixologist, Sean Johnson, the Hennessy Ambassador, joining as well to shake it up and teach us how to create a Hennessy Reviver cocktail.
That cocktail name sounds delicious, so I'm thinking this is going to be a fabulous cocktail. But in prep for today, I was thinking one of the things that I learned when I joined Moet Hennessy is how little I actually knew about cognac, and I didn't really know what it was or where it's from. So I thought maybe, Angela, you can kick us off by taking us on a little bit of a journey educating around what cognac is.
It's so interesting because a lot of Americans actually drink cognac, but I'm not sure everybody's familiar with what it is exactly.
Yeah, let's talk about cognac, or as they say, it's the king of spirits. It's a region and a liquid that's really close to my heart.
Mine too.
So
the two of you, this little dynamic here. Okay.
We have a love and an affinity
Yes.
for cognac.
I can tell.
So cognac is three things. It is a town, an appellation, and a brandy. And I bet you didn't think I was going to say all of those three things.
No.
But let's start with the town bit first. So to get to the town of Cognac, which is on the northwestern side of France, you're going to need some planes, a train, and definitely a few automobiles. So to get there to the town of Cognac, it's right above Bordeaux. So I usually fly in, though, to Charles de Gaulle. I take a 3-hour train ride down to Angoulême. Did I say that right, Agleen?
Angoulême, yeah.
And then it's a 30-ish minute ride or so, depending on the traffic, down to the medieval town of Cognac. And once you arrive in the town of Cognac, I just said it's medieval. You step out and you are walking on history. The streets are beautiful cobblestone streets. Your shoes go click-clack as you're walking along there, and you can just feel the history there. 2,000 years of history right there underneath your feet.
It's incredible.
It's a really small and quaint place, and one of the things I noticed immediately the first time I went was that everyone seemed to know each other. It's really lovely.
It's such a small town. Actually, my mother's side of the family is from that area, from actually Angoulême. So I used to spend a lot of time on vacations in that area. And, while I couldn't drink cognac at the time, it was certainly everywhere around me. And I don't think people realize how small cognac is. I think people are aware of the appellation and the product, but the town itself is tiny. So there's only like 18,000 what we call cognacés, which are the people from Cognac. Like you said, most of them know each other and definitely work one way or another in producing cognac, which is really interesting. But the area is really beautiful. It's like those rolling hills that are covered with vineyards. It's beautiful.
I want to go. I want to go right now. I'm actually jealous. Well, you're from, but you've been. Will you send me?
Of course.
Yes.
We'll
Don't
definitely
forget.
go soon.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So I mentioned that Cognac is a town, beautiful place, but it's also an appellation. And an appellation is a geographical growing area, defined, but it's also rules and regulations. And Cognac is the most regulated spirit on planet Earth. In fact, the rule books from the appellation it's about 300 and something pages? Now, I thought what would be really fun for the show is I'm actually going to read all 300 pages to you right now. The font is very small, so let's get going.
Please don't.
Let me get no.
No, I'm just kidding.
I was like, wait, are you serious?
No, Cognac is governed by the AOC, or the Appellation d'Origine Contrôlée.
Beautiful.
Yes, I'm practicing my French. And the BINC, the Bureau National Interprofessionnel de Cognac.
You're so good.
That's okay.
You're French.
Thank you.
Nailed that, actually.
My last name may be French, but I'm working on speaking it a little bit, or at least pronouncing it correctly. But no, the AOC and the BNIC, they manage a comprehensive regulatory framework that defines and regulates what cognac is from soil to bottle. And the reason they do that is to preserve the integrity of cognac. Being the most regulated spirit on earth, you know when you pour a glass and take a sip of cognac that it's going to be an incredible experience. And so their job is to maintain that integrity of the region and the product. Which brings me to the third definition of cognac. It's a brandy.
What is a brandy?
Well, I'm glad you asked. That's a great question, Laura. Let's back it up, though, for a second, because I think to answer what a brandy is, we need to talk about the greater world of brown spirits. And there's really two main categories when it comes to brown spirits. So there are brown spirits made from fruit or grapes, and then there are brown spirits made from grain, cereal, like barley, corn, rye,
Okay.
right? Now, grape or fruit-based spirits are called...
Brandy.
Great job, Laura. You did it. High five. And grain-based spirits, again, from cereal grains, what are those called?
Whiskey.
You got it. Nailed it.
You're a pro.
Yes. So then a brandy is a spirit that is made from a grape. But then what would make a cognac, specifically a cognac?
Yeah, what makes a cognac?
A cognac.
Cognac. So cognac, as I mentioned, it's a brandy made from...
Grapes.
Yes. And it follows really strict rules and regulations, as I was mentioning just a minute ago. It has to be made within the Cognac region of France. And while any grape or fruit-based spirit, they're made around the world. It's not just exclusive to cognac. Mm-hmm. But in order to be called cognac, it has to be that brandy that's made in cognac. Sort of like to be champagne, it has to be made in the Champagne region of France. Or tequila must be crafted in Mexico, right? So to be cognac, it has to come from cognac. And the way that they craft cognac is by blending eau de vie. This is another French terminology. I think I nailed that one.
Very good.
So eau de vie are straight, unblended spirits that are created by distilling Uni Blanc wine. Uni Blancs are the types of grapes that cognac is made from. They make wine and they distill it twice. Mm-hmm. So to be a cognac, you have to at least blend 2 eau de vie, and those eau de vie that are blended together have to be aged at least 2 years. And then it can start to become called cognac.
Cognac.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. I think historically, actually, cognac was crafted for very practical reasons. In the old days, wine was a necessity for, on-board long sea voyages. And I would say it's still a necessity today.
I was like,
even
when did
for
it
short
stop
ones.
being a necessity?
But at the time, it was very hard to store it on board successfully, right? So the British and the Dutch traders discovered that the best shipping wines were actually blended with brandy in it. And because of the Charente River running through Cognac, ships were able to easily procure that brandy, that cognac, and put it into their wines. So it became a very sought-after necessity.
I'm sure they were tasting that cognac before they put it in the wine. And can you imagine
sure did.
that they decided, why are we putting this in the wine?
Exactly. That's exactly what happened.
Why don't we just drink the brandy?
Let's skip the wine.
Well, that is a fascinating story. I think that explains, though, the fact that it was on ships and I'm sure they were exploring the world. That would explain the world's love affair with cognac. And I'd like to actually tie that into Hennessy because our topic today is all about Hennessy, and there's a really cool story behind Hennessy, and it starts with Richard Hennessy. Do you want to hear it?
Yes.
Of course.
Okay, so though cognac is French, the world's #1 selling cognac brand or house, Hennessy, was actually founded by an Irishman. Now, how did this crazy story begin? Well, in 1743, Richard Hennessy was a young 19-year-old Irishman The country at the time was a difficult place to live because it was under harsh British rule. Villages and churches were being pillaged and burned down due to religious, persecution. That's a bit of a dark side of the story. But Richard knew that he wanted to do something about it. So he noticed and heard about that the French army was enlisting Irishmen to bolster their forces. So Richard decides at 19 that he, like so many wild geese at the time, would leave Ireland to join the army of King Louis XV and fight against the British to end the rule in Ireland. That's a pretty noble story, right? So he fought valiantly for, I think it was something like 6 years on bloody battlefields. And after 6 long years, he decided that he wanted to retire from the fighting and decided that he wanted to craft a new future for himself, and he fell in love with France. Now, he also had an uncle who was also a wild geese who had joined the army a little bit before him, and in a similar way had decided to retire and started up and learned about an eau de vie trading company. So remember, eau de vie are those distilled spirits made from the grape wine, the Lillet Blanc grape wine and cognac. So Richard's uncle he had a bustling business, and Richard apprenticed under him for a few short years and then decided in 1765 that he was going to head out on his own. He had fallen in love with the Cognac region where your family lives, the beautiful Charente River, and he decided there's an opportunity here. The eau de vie that was being made in Cognac was magnificent. It was magical. And he also noticed the opportunity with the ships that Adeline mentioned. So the ships were rolling in and the Cognac was rolling onto the ships. So he saw an opportunity here. So the Charente River is the main river that runs through this region. And Richard Hennessy spent about 17 days searching for a site to found his eau de vie trading company. And he knew that there was an opportunity to be right on the banks of the Charente. So he decided to buy land there, and that is where the Hennessy Maison is still located today. And this gave him a head start. His Hennessy Eau de Vie trading company was able to load the eau de vie onto these flat-bottom ships that would take them out to the larger ships. And Hennessy, the success began right there. And I don't know, though, if he really knew at the time. He knew he wanted to build a legacy. He knew he was a businessman. He knew he was going to build something that would stand the test of time. But can you imagine in 1765 if he would even, it would remotely be, a thought in his mind that in the year 2023, we would be on a podcast talking about Hennessy, the world's #1 cognac brand. What a success story.
Of all the founding stories that I've learned, this is by far my favorite. I think it's really inspirational. I love learning about the man behind the legend, and also just in joining Moet Hennessy, learning about Hennessy, I've really fallen in love with cognac and with this cognac in particular.
And his ancestors kept the story alive, which brings us to a great moment.
Oh, are you going to do it?
Oh, we're going to do it. Adeline, are you ready for Behind the Bottle?
I'm ready. I'm going to do my best, Rich.
To make Rich proud.
So for our friends out there, our commercial teams, or anyone actually selling Hennessy V.S. to their customers or even to their consumers, I think it's a good reminder that you can find most of the information just by looking at the bottle. And this bottle is very recognizable. It has its long neck and this beautiful round shape. You know it's Hennessy by looking at it from far. But let's take a look at the label, right? The first thing I see is the date, 1765. That is when our friend Richard Hennessy, founder, created the house. So that is over 250 years. I want to say it's older than the birth of America. I had to say it as a French person. I had to say it.
You went there.
I went there. But talk about heritage. It's incredible. And VS. So most people are probably not sure what it means. So VS means very special. You probably have heard of VSOP, Very Superior Old Pale, or XO. And that is because you mentioned in Angela before, Cognac is one of the most regulated regions in the world. And that has to do with the aging of the eau de vie. So everything is regulated. If you are calling your cognac VS, the eau de vie have to be aged at least 2 years. Yeah. But what's incredible in Hennessy V.S. is that our eau de vie are aged up to 8 years, which make it VSOP material when you think about it. But also a good reminder that you can't just produce a bottle of Hennessy overnight. Time is the ultimate luxury. Now, another thing that I love to look at the label is those beautiful grapevine. And I want to ask the question to Laura. Why do you think there is grapevine on the label?
Because it's made from Uni Blanc grapes.
Amazing.
And I do have to say, I feel a little silly being like, God, what is Hennessy made of? What are those grapes doing on the label?
Just look at the label.
I know, learning.
Another great thing that you'll find on the bottle, and actually on every single bottle of Hennessy, is le bras armé, the armed. So this is the arm and the axe that actually refers to Richard Hennessy's 12 years career with the French army, which, rightfully so, earned him his French citizenship.
Another fun fact about the armed arm, the bras armés, is that it's also a nod to the Hennessy family crest. So Google it if you'd like. Take a look at it. The crest includes a wild boar and this iconic, fist carrying the hatchet. And underneath the boar, it actually reads "Vivo et armis," which means "live by strength of arms."
That's incredible. What a great story and a great family. And actually going back to Richard Hennessy, very early on, after he founded the house, he hired Jean Fillou in 1786 to be his master blender. And since then, the Fillou family and the Hennessy family have been together crafting those amazing cognac. So today, Renaud Fillou de Gironde is actually the 8th generation of master blender, and also at the head of the Comité de Dégustation, so the tasting committee.
Everything sounds better when you say it. I just
Thanks,
want to
Laura.
put it out there.
But what's amazing is that this unbroken chain of generations and transmission of know-how has allowed really our cognac to remain consistently amazing and good, if not better, right? And another fun fact that I like to mention is that the tasting committee actually meets every day at 11 a.m. because 11 a.m. is really when your palate is the most receptive. And they can taste 50 to 50 eau de vie a day. Can you imagine? Like, even after 3, I'm just like, it all tastes like alcohol. It's
crazy. 40 to 50 a day.
It's 10,000 a year.
And to discern the difference
all different
in
crews,
that complexity.
Different regions. It's impressive. But people don't think about it. But in a bottle of Hennessy V.S., there is up to 40 different eau de vie. Pretty incredible. And I'll finish with that. So Hennessy V.S. is the most popular cognac in the US and in the world. It's actually matured in new oak barrel, which gives it this very particular taste that is intense and bold and very fragrant, and also gives it this versatility to it, which is quite unique. And I like to share like a personal experience with V.S. specifically. I mentioned I grew up in the region and cognac was everywhere around me. However, I never got a taste for it. In France, most people will drink Hennessy at the end of the meal as a digestif. To be quite honest, it's mostly older people drinking Hennessy. So when I arrived in the US, somebody served me a V.S. with ginger ale. And I was like, what? I was mind-blowing to me because I didn't think I could ever drink, cognac. But just that little addition made it like so delicious to me. And then I realized that's, again, going back to the versatility to it. It's incredible. In simple cocktails, I was like classic cocktails. We're talking French 75, obviously amazing. We had it in our first episode. Césarac, all of these are incredible. And that is what makes, I believe, Hennessy V.S. so different.
And now let's shake it up with Jasmin Allen. Jasmin Allen is the Senior Vice President of Hennessy at LVMH. Jasmin drives growth for Moet Hennessy USA's largest business, and she is the first Black woman to serve as a Senior Vice President in the company. That's so impressive. Prior to Hennessy, Jasmin served as Vice President and General Manager of Moet & Chandon USA and Brand Director and Head of Consumer Marketing and Engagement for Belvedere Vodka USA. Jasmin is heavily involved in mentorship and has been a strong advocate for improving diversity at Moet Hennessy. She's a member of the Moet Hennessy Global Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council and also serves on the steering committee. She is a founding member and executive sponsor of MHUSA Noir Assemblage and an executive sponsor of LVMH. Welcome to the show, Jasmin.
Thank you so much, Angela. So glad to be here with you three ladies today to talk a little bit about Hennessy.
Let's do it.
Yes.
So let's just start off with a question.
Please do.
Now, listen, we are so thrilled to have you on the show. And since we are the Power of Mixing podcast, we have to know, if you could have a cocktail with anyone, what cocktail would it be and why?
So I am a huge fan of a Hennessy VSOP sidecar. So that's usually my go-to order if I'm ordering Hennessy at a bar or at a restaurant. So it would be a Hennessy VSOP sidecar. And right now I am obsessed with the show The Bear.
Oh, I love that show.
I love The Bear. It has been the best gift I've been given this summer. So I would love to have a Hennessy VSOP sidecar with Jasmin Allen White, who is the lead character Carmi in the show. I enjoy cooking, as Agleen knows, and he is a fantastic chef. And so would love to talk cooking and have a cocktail with him if possible.
Oh,
that's a great one.
Good. That's a good one. I think I'm going to take your advice. I'm going to have a Hennessy cocktail and watch The Bear. Listen, Jazz, your background, your experience is so inspiring to a lot of people, including all of us at this table. We are consistently and constantly inspired by you. Tell us a bit about your journey and how you became the SVP of Hennessy USA.
So what's interesting, Angela, is I never considered wines and spirits. After business school, I went to Duke for business school. I worked at Coca-Cola, so the Coca-Cola company for 7 years. That's where I started my marketing career. And then I moved to Seattle to lead a marketing team at T-Mobile. And then after Seattle, I moved to New York. And interestingly, a headhunter by the name of Judy, she was amazing, reached out to me about a unique opportunity to be a brand director on Belvedere Vodka. And it was the opportunity to join that team at that time, and the great reviews I'd heard about the leader of Belvedere Vodka at the time was Carlos Cepeda, one of our very own, which really made me interested about coming into Moet Hennessy and interviewing for the job. And ultimately I got the job, and I've been with the company now for 7 years. And I think one of the things that I talk to people about when it comes to career and thinking about your career is the importance of being open-minded. I think because I was open-minded, even though, again, I hadn't considered wines and spirits previously, I've now had what has been the 7 best years of my career at MH. And so in terms of being the SVP of Hennessy, I was on Belvedere for 3.5 years, great years, had the opportunity to then lead the Moet de Chandon business in the United States, which was really fantastic. I think the opportunity to work on a champagne brand at our company is really, really special because, as we know, MH is the largest producer of champagne in the world. Yeah. And I think there's something quite special about it. So I loved that experience. It really helped, me to learn the ropes of being a GM. And then, I was given the opportunity to interview for the SVP of Hennessy role, very big role, and I was so proud to do it. And, it's been almost 3 years now that I've been the SVP, and it's really been kind of the shining period of my career. I could have never asked for, I think, a better role. The business is fantastic. I think the brand is fantastic. The team is fantastic. So I have really, really enjoyed it.
You're an inspiration leading the lighthouse, namesake brands for Moet Hennessy, having that experience with both of those brands.
The M and the H.
Yes.
The M and the H.
So being the SVP of Hennessy, we have to know, when was the first time that you actually tried Hennessy? Do you remember?
Absolutely. So my story is similar to many of our target consumer stories. And, in the Black community, Hennessy is part of your family. It is a generational component of your life. Hennessy has been part of the Allen family for a very long time. My grandfather James drank Hennessy. My dad and my uncles drank Hennessy. My dad would drink Hennessy with my brothers, my older brothers. So Hennessy has been part of the fabric of the Allen family for, my entire life. In terms of my first time having it, when I turned 21, my older brother Stefan told me, your first time going to a nightclub for 21 and over, I want to be the person to take you. So I want to take you to your first 21 and over nightclub. And so we went to a nightclub that was really popular back then in Georgetown. I grew up in the DC area. So we went to a nightclub called Quigley's in Georgetown. I'll never forget. And he ordered me a Hennessy and Coke. So I had a Henny and Coke for the very first time at age 21 at Quigley's in Georgetown to commemorate, kind of a rite of passage of sorts.
A Henny and Coke?
A Henny and
Coke.
Coke.
It's a classic.
Exactly.
Delicious, refreshing. So, you mentioned Hennessy being part of the family, especially in the Black community. So let's talk about that. For decades, Hennessy has been a leader when it comes to social impact, especially for BIPOC and underrepresented communities. The brand has been doing the right thing at the right time because it's the right thing to do for longer than most people realize. So what would you highlight in terms of some ways that Hennessy has made a social impact?
I think, Angela, what's interesting is a lot of people don't know that Hennessy has been a supporter of communities of color for a very long time, for over a century. The first shipment of Hennessy arrived on the shores of Boston in 1794, so not too long after Hennessy was founded in 1765. And during the 1800s, Hennessy as a brand embraced, communities of color and the Black community in particular. In 1896, we were a sponsor of the Tuskegee Institute. In 1909, we were the first corporate sponsor of the NAACP. In 1951, we were the first spirits brand to advertise in Ebony magazine. And then if you fast forward just to a little bit more recently, in 2003, we founded the Hennessy VSOP Privilege Awards to honor excellence in multicultural entrepreneurship. In 2019, something that's near and dear to my heart, we partnered with the Thurgood Marshall College Fund to create the Hennessy Fellows Program, which is all about equipping HBCU students with the tools they need to be able to reach the highest levels of leadership in corporate America. In 2020, we know that the world was completely impacted by COVID. And we knew as a Hennessy business that our communities of color were disproportionately impacted, especially business owners. So we started the Unfinished Business Initiative that allowed us to raise over $5 million to support those businesses in the Latinx, Asian American, and Black communities. And then most recently, 2023, as a kind of an offshoot of the partnership we had with the film Creed 3 that was released earlier this year, we had the Hennessy Legacy Makers Initiative, which allowed us to celebrate Black creators and directors on their journey to get their films out to the world. And actually, just about a week and a half ago, those films were highlighted at the Martha's Vineyard Film Festival. So, kind of full circle moment for us to be able to leverage a partnership with a great film to truly have an impact on the community. And we'll continue to do this. This is part of who we are, Angela, and we will always be very committed to supporting communities of color.
It's incredible, just decades of support, and again, doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
Now, this year is an exciting year because it's the 50th anniversary of hip hop.
Yes, it is.
All right, let's talk about Hennessy and hip hop. What is Hennessy doing to celebrate this monumentous occasion?
So I think, hopefully everybody knows this, but in case people don't, Hennessy is the most name-dropped spirit in all of hip hop. So we are the spirit that has been mentioned the most in hip hop. And we love that. We think that is fantastic. And it speaks to the indelible connection that we have had to hip hop from the beginning. We've supported the culture. We've been a part of the culture. So because of that, we said, hip hop 50, that's our time. That's our ownable moment. So we're leaning into a few different things. The first is our 10-year partnership with Nas. So Nas is hip hop royalty. He is a pioneer, he is a philanthropist, he is an investor, he's also a dad. Phenomenal human being who has done so much and has had such an impact on the hip hop community. And so he's been our partner for 10 years, and we said to ourselves, how about we do something we've never done before with Nas to commemorate Hip Hop 50? So we, for the very first time, co-created a limited edition V.S. bottle with Nas. And the reception to that bottle has been fantastic. So we launched it just about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And we commemorated the launch with a launch event here in New York City. And our goal was to almost write a love letter to hip hop, to showcase Hennessy's, just absolute love for the genre, celebration of how far hip hop has come. So of course we had, scenes from different eras of hip hop, different hip hop artists. We featured different DJs that played, hip hop from different, areas of the country and also the world. We also wanted to give the consumers who were in attendance an opportunity to lean into their love for hip hop. So we had a couple of experiential elements, like you could create your own CD cover, kind of a throwback, right? Where you could actually take a photograph and have props and kind of make your own CD cover.
Oh man, is the CD a throwback?
A CD is a throwback.
Oh no!
Trust me, my 29-year-old niece told me it is a throwback.
Man, the CD is a throwback.
Yeah.
Oh God!
And we also let people design their own jerseys to rep where they're from. So we wanted it to be a celebration of music, but also we wanted the people in attendance to be able to really embrace it and take something from it, right? In addition, we have a complete suite of tools, of course, at retail to commemorate Hip Hop 50. Our Hip Hop 50 program's been doing fantastic as it relates to POS, take rate. The field is super excited about it. Our retailers are super excited about it. You've been seeing us talk about it a lot in social. And then finally, when it comes to, earned media, we've gotten so much fantastic traction behind this. Publications that are renowned, have really embraced what we're doing. We were featured in Forbes, we've been featured in Vibe, we've been featured in Vogue. So really, really tremendous coverage that we're getting. And we think it's important because this is a really special moment for hip hop and for Hennessy.
It's incredible.
Just to pause for a second, I'm really blown away by the heart and everything that you talk about, the fabric of family and the dedication to the romance of the brand and how the brand shows up as part of our lives. It's very moving. I have to say, it's very moving to listen to how much heart is behind Hennessy, and that just really stands out to me. I was just thinking that as you were talking.
And I think when you have a chance to run a business that is so part of the fabric of a community and communities, it's hard not to feel the passion.
Yeah.
I think, when I look back on my career, I really do believe that this tenure that I've had leading Hennessy will be one of those that will just be near and dear to my soul, because there's really nothing like, the ability to be a champion of this beautiful brand and business, and also be able to connect to the community in a really impactful way.
You are shepherding the brand, into the future, crafting the future.
That's the hope.
And as any good shepherd, there's always some sort of tension, right?
Oh, yeah.
So what are some misconceptions that you've heard about Cognac and Hennessy?
So I think the biggest misconception is that Hennessy can only be consumed either on a rock or neat, or if there is, a mixing moment, that it's just with one ingredient like Coke, as I mentioned before. And that's true. That's really true. You absolutely can have a Henny and Coke or a Henny and Ginger. You can have it on a rock, you can have it neat, but there are myriad other ways you can enjoy Hennessy. You can enjoy it in a cocktail. It mixes beautifully. You can also enjoy it not just late at night in a nightclub or after dinner. Hennessy is actually beautiful during the day. In fact, for me, if I'm at a pool or at a beach and I want to drink Hennessy, what I'll have, my favorite, is a Hennessy tonic lime. So Hennessy V.S. specifically, a little bit of tonic, and just take a lime wedge, squeeze it in, and I literally can drink that all day. It allows me to transition from day to night, and I feel good. So I think the important thing for us to educate people about is there are no limits to how you can consume Hennessy or when you can consume Hennessy.
Hashtag no limits.
Hashtag no limits. Never stop, never stop.
That's actually my favorite memory of joining Moet Hennessy was Angela took me out on maybe my first day, and she asked me, we're going to try a Hennessy cocktail. And I was like, Hennessy in a cocktail? And she said yes, and she ordered a Hennessy Negroni for me.
Yes. Hennessy
My favorite,
VSOP Negroni.
my
Yes.
favorite
That is a
cocktail. That's my
Hennessy
favorite
Negroni.
cocktail.
And
Everyone loves a Negroni.
that was like a path down the rabbit hole of me replacing cocktails with Hennessy across the board. So I'm happy to have fallen down the Hennessy rabbit hole.
So one thing that Sean, who we're going to hear from later, always talks about is an easy rule of thumb. Any sort of core liquid. Usually light liquids, especially like a tequila. But in this case, for sure, a gin, right, in terms of the Negroni, you can swap out for Hennessy. Give it a taste, and if you don't like it, we'll be shocked. Because it's usually very, very good. As you know, Aglaine loves her VSOP Negroni.
The best.
One thing that we've been doing is the Henny Rita, swapping out tequila for Hennessy V.S. and margaritas, and it is magnificent.
It's really good. So delicious and tasty.
One more. I'm on a roll. One more.
Let's go.
Espresso martini.
Yes.
So keep in mind, Belvedere vodka girl, raised on Belvedere vodka, right, at MH. And a Belvedere vodka espresso martini is magical. An espresso martini with Hennessy will change your life.
I am such a fan of the Hennessy espresso martini. I
have to try it.
It's so delicious.
And I'm not gonna lie, I love the look on the face of the person when you order it, because you want clout when you order a drink. You want them to be like, And when I switch it up with Hennessy, they'll be like, okay, and I'm like, you don't know.
Now you got to taste it.
Now you got to do it. So it's nice actually for those of us maybe on the commercial team who are listening in. Like this kind of suggestion, I think, has a lot of like surprise and credit within the trade, and it's really, I enjoy it all around.
And I have to say, Laura, usually when you ask for the alternative liquid, so to replace Hennessy with the institutional liquid, they're skeptical. I've had a bartender at a Mexican restaurant in our neighborhood look at me like I was crazy when I asked him to sub tequila for Hennessy, but then I said, taste it. And then he tasted it and he said, okay, this is actually good.
Yeah, that's what you get the joy of like watching them be like, oh my God. And I'm like, I know.
There's a reason it's called the King of Spirits.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, Jasmin, we always like to learn from our incredible special guests. So we have a question for you. What is one lesson that your career has taught you that you think everyone should learn at some point?
So I spoke about it a little bit earlier, and I cannot reiterate it enough, the importance of open-mindedness. We all go through life thinking that we know where we're going to end. We all have, career aspirations, and we say there's a North Star that we want to reach for, and sometimes we become so razor focused on that we miss out on opportunities. I think that the biggest thing that has impacted my career is my open-mindedness. I was open-minded about leaving Atlanta, Georgia, and moving across the country to Seattle, a place I had never been to, a city I didn't know a whole lot about. But because I was really excited about the opportunity at T-Mobile, I decided to really take a leap of faith of sorts. And that open-mindedness, I think, has led me down the path that I've been on, at this point. And I talked about, wines and spirits not really being in my consideration set when I was navigating my career. And then, Judy called, the headhunter, and the rest is history. So I think that not limiting yourself, recognizing that life and your career can go along a circuitous path that can be beautiful for you, I think really can help you reap the most benefit in your career.
Beautifully said.
So, are you ready?
Ooh, the good stuff.
What? All right. Okay, I hope you're ready.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, so what is the section? This is flambe. So I'm going to give you a couple of rapid fire questions. Don't think too much about it. It's kind of just to have fun and get to know you.
Love it.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi?
Oh, Diet Coke, honey. Raised at the Coca-Cola family.
Okay,
That's an easy one.
I know. I wanted to, start off slow.
Yeah, I like it.
All right. Alicia Keys, Girl on Fire, or Beyonce, Girls Who Run the World?
Girls Who Run the World, Beyonce.
Yeah, it's pretty good. All right, Belvedere Martini or XO on the Rock?
This is a tough one. Hennessy Maison, I love you. Belvedere Martini.
Belvedere Martini. All right, Rocky or Creed?
Oh, Rocky. It all started with Rocky.
Oh my God, high fives. I love
Absolutely.
Rocky. I'm from
Rocky
Philly.
can do no wrong. We're a Rocky family. The Allen family, we are a Rocky family.
Me too.
Yeah.
Oh my
we
God,
should watch together sometime.
Don't. Yes. Okay. Fendi high heels or Vuitton sneakers?
You know what? I would say Fendi high heels for work, but Vuitton sneakers for outside of work.
I was watching you on your Insta. I thought you would go with sneakers.
Yeah.
I thought you'd go with sneakers. All right, an Oscars after party or the Met Gala?
Met Gala, for sure.
All right. New York Knicks or the Brooklyn Nets?
Brooklyn Nets. I live in BK now. Barclays is like 5 minutes from my apartment. Let's go, baby.
Okay. All right. Sipping rosé in Saint-Tropez or playing blackjack in Las Vegas?
So, Laura, this is a tough one because I just came back from Saint-Tropez for vacation, and I had a lot of rosé and a lot of Chateau d'Esclans. But my heart is in Vegas. Vegas is my favorite place in the world.
Really?
Yes.
What's your favorite club in Vegas?
Oh, Dre's.
I was going to say.
Oh, 100%.
So you're drinking Hennessy at day clubbing. I see this for you.
Oh, yeah.
Feel free to take me on the trip, and then we can watch Rocky.
Oh my gosh. In the hotel room. It'll be like the full circle moment.
I love it. All right, final question for you. What is your go-to toast or cheers?
My go-to toast or cheers is usually my boyfriend, his mother was a French teacher, and so he likes to sort of speak French sometimes, as Eileen knows. Yeah. So he has me saying santé a lot now, but usually it would just be cheers.
I like it. Well, cheers to you.
Thank you, Laura.
And cheers to being flambéed, and I'm going to hold you to that Rocky Vegas date.
Let's do it.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Jazz.
Santé, Jasmine. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Angela.
And now it's time for Up Neat and On the Rocks. And today we are so excited to welcome Sean Johnson, Hennessy Ambassador, to the show. Sean has an incredible background and resume. Sean's an award-winning drink maker that has bartended at some of the world's best bars on both coasts, including places like Cannon, Whiskey and Bitters Emporium in Seattle, and Peychaud Club and Amor y Amargo in New York City. Sean has shown a strong thirst for knowledge and an enduring passion for well-made cocktails and well-balanced drinks. His original cocktails have been published in books discussing new classics and reviewed in the New York Post and the New York Times and the London Financial Times. Sean was most recently the head bartender at the 2 Michelin-starred restaurant in New York City, Gabriel Cruther. And we're so lucky to have Sean join the Moet Hennessy family. In 2020, he became the Hennessy Ambassador. Welcome to the show, Sean.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Feeling very special sitting next to you.
Yeah.
So actually, I was really looking forward to you being here for a lot of reasons, but I have learned a lot this episode. We've been talking a lot about the versatility of Hennessy, and I just got back from my first Tales, which was so good. And what I experienced there was a lot about how within the culture, Hennessy really is the spirit of choice for so many classic cocktails. And I thought maybe you could share a little bit about why this is such a famous brand within that part of our community.
Absolutely. I think that what you said, coming from Tales specifically, right, like building from there, because the French 75 and the Sazerac were invented in New Orleans, right? And Cognac had such a rich history in New Orleans that since Prohibition has been lost because of 2 things. Number 1, Prohibition, and then number 2, we went through this thing called phylloxera that killed a lot of our vines in Cognac, and it was harder to get in the United States. So bartenders a little bit forgot that Cognac is incredibly versatile in cocktails, right? So it's a joy to hear that you learned that in Tales, and it's absolutely true. So when we talk about the flavor profile of Hennessy specifically, Hennessy V.S, the very special that we all love, there are fruit notes and almond notes and burnt notes and oak notes that lends itself to so many different flavor profiles that it used to be the spirit of choice for bartenders before Prohibition. The first cocktail book ever written, the first recipe in that book was a French brandy punch. So when we talk about cocktails and when we talk about the history of mixology, Cognac is infused with it. All I'm trying to do is remind people that Hennessy V.S. is one of the best cognacs to put in a cocktail.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. And, there's a lot of spirits that are very popular today. So what might you say to the trade that may be hesitant today to mix with Hennessy?
It's something I deal with every day. I think the number one thing is ask them why first. Why are you resistant? We always want to approach trade with a question. What is your history with the spirit? Then reinforce the versatility. then third, what I do is like know your history. You know, when we talk about the Sazerac, it was originally made with cognac. When we talk about the Vieux Carré, when we talk about the French 75, there's a storied history with cognac cocktails. And if you are a bartender, you should know some of that history. Then you kind of backtrack. I want to reintroduce the versatility of Hennessy V.S. to bartenders because they think of it as a brown spirit. They think of it as whiskey. We're talking about a cognac made from fruit, made from white grape. So it has really a bouquet of flavors that they can enjoy and mix with.
Yeah, one thing is really a really fun activity to do, and it's insightful as well as being fun, is ask a bartender to create a classic cocktail using whatever spirit they're currently, crafting it with, and then have them craft it with Hennessy.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we're about to enjoy that. But I think that is one of the things that when cognac kind of lost its, let's call it a market share, when they lost their market share because of phylloxera, because of prohibition, gin and rye replaced what cognac was. So now today, what I try to do with bartenders is, okay, when I started bartending, and I don't mean to date myself, but 15 years ago, gin was the most versatile spirit. So what I do today is like, okay, you have a gin cocktail on your menu. Would you mind making that with Hennessy V.S? Because it's going to surprise them. The versatility of what cognac is, when you look at gin, you have 4 or 5 flavor notes that you can base your cocktail off of. Cognac has 4 or 5, 6. So why not replace those things and start to experience how it like marries into some of these really beautiful cocktails that are coming out right now.
Well, I don't think we can wait anymore. Let's mix it up. So what are you crafting for us today? What are we learning to do?
Today we are doing exactly what you talked about. It's called the Hennessy Reviver, and it's based off the Coupe Reviver No. 1, which is a gin-based cocktail originally. It's a pre-prohibition cocktail, and drinking and imbibing has gone through so many different phases in the United States. When the Coupe Reviver No. 2 was made, it was made to wake you up. It was made to like cure that hangover because there was a lot of day drinkers back then. Now we're seeing a resurgence of less imbibing, but throughout the day it's more prevalent, right? So brunch is a thing that people enjoy cocktails in. The Coupe Reviver No. 2 is perfect. So the Hennessy Reviver, you switch out gin for our favorite VS, Hennessy V.S. And it's a beautiful equal parts cocktail. So we're going to do 3/4 Hennessy V.S., 3/4 Coque Americano. If you don't have Coque Americano available to you, a Blanc fortified wine or Lillet will work perfectly fine. Most of us have that in our bar because we enjoy martinis very much. We want to do a orange liqueur, triple sec, orange curacao, Cointreau works. Right now we're using Cointreau. We're going to do 3/4 lemon juice.
Freshly squeezed.
Freshly squeezed, always, please, never pasteurized. And then we're going to have 1 dash of Peychaud's bitters, another New Orleans staple. And we're going to add a little bit of ice and shake it up.
Ice is one of our favorite topics here on the Engage MH podcast.
Oh, you got to tell me about that.
It is an incredibly prevalent and constant theme, I have to say.
It's important.
If ice is a big topic, I want to be a part of that. And I'm gonna ask you to shake. Are you cool with it?
I mean, I'm going to try.
All right.
Is it locked?
It is locked.
I've heard this is a more complex shaker.
Use both hands and shake it up. There you go.
You've gotten better.
I know, my skill set. Look at this podcast teaching me things and changing my life.
Are you listening to the ice?
I am. Can I stop? Keep going?
Is it chilled on your hands?
It's cold.
There we go. That's when you stop.
All right.
So the rule is when you start to see condensation around your fingers, right there, that's when you stop.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Great job. One of my favorite sounds in the world.
Beautiful color.
Thank you.
How would we describe this for our listeners that aren't watching, which you should be watching? If you are listening, take a moment later on and go to YouTube and look at this beautiful cocktail that Sean's just mixed up for us.
I mean, I always enjoy the term golden amber, right? And I think that when we talk about brown spirits, one of the opportunities that I like to take with brown spirits is to make it look appetizing, right? Because a lot of people, when they think about brown spirits, they think about a brown cocktail. This is obviously a lighter cocktail. It looks inviting, and hopefully you will enjoy it.
It looks like Sunday afternoon.
There we go.
Like fresh, zingy. Anybody can drink it. It'll match my
Absolutely.
bag.
Right.
Hashtag golden amber.
Yes.
Well, let's not just stare at it. Let's taste this. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you, Sean.
Cheers.
What an incredible show.
Today was very enjoyable. I loved Jasmin and some of the comments that she brought. And having you here,
For show.
cheers to Agleen being here.
So much fun.
Santé.
Thank you. Santé.
Thank you for matching me, most importantly.
So we covered a lot in our Hennessy-themed episode, and as we like to do, I think it'd be a great idea to close on 3 things we were inspired by. How does that sound?
Great.
Lovely. Can I go first?
I knew it.
again?
I was waiting for it.
I should learn to share, but I'm an only child.
It's
so-
tradition.
Okay. I'll go first. When I think about the things we talked about today and some of the lessons that we learned, the one that stands out for me is the heart behind Hennessy. As I said, I was very, very touched, honestly, to listen to Jasmin share the social commitment and responsibility, the phrase that she used about being involved in the fabric of our families. I think it's hard not to be moved by that. And when you think about that and then think about this incredible brand, I think it really shapes such a meaningful commitment to being part of people. And I love that. So that's mine.
That was beautiful. Maybe I'll be a bit more practical.
Well, thank God someone has to be. So.
For me, what resonates the most with this brand is, and I mentioned it before, the versatility of it. I think we don't think enough about switching, your traditional spirits for cognac. And Jasmin mentioned it. My all-time favorite, drink is a Negroni. And yes, I went from gin, and then I tried mezcal, and now like VSOP. I'm not switching. Like I just it's incredible. But I would probably have never thought about it, if no one had introduced me to it. So I think for our bartenders out there, try to switch what your normal spirits is with Hennessy, and you'll have that kind of surprise and delight moment with your customers. So it happened to me. I thought it was amazing.
I love it. And for me, to build on that, the surprise and delight, you should have Hennessy on your back bar. You should have it on your menu. It should be, switch up your cocktails, like you just said, Agleen. Hennessy's the #1 cognac brand in the world. It's instantly recognizable. And it's not a fad. Cognac is the king of spirits. It's got history. It's got heritage. It's got honor. It's been Hennessy's been crafting the future for over 250 years. Boom.
Mic drop.
Thank you for pulling this together. Today was really great.
What a fabulous show.
Thank you for having me. So for everybody listening to us or watching us today, just make sure, please, that you're sharing it with your friends, you liking our podcast, but also going to our YouTube channel and our Instagram, EngageMH. Thank you so much.
See you next time.